Welcome to My Wild Magic with me, your host, Adrienne Cobb. Join me on a journey back home to your truest self in this inspiring, enlightening, and entertaining show. After a near-death experience in a car crash at 15 years old, I made a choice to stay and brought back with me 3 simple truths that I found from the other side. Love is all there is. Our time is over here quicker than we think, and we all have a purpose, a soul blueprint to fulfill. On this show, you will find a higher purpose, a creative expression, and unique soul attributes that you can bring forth into this world. Stay tuned with me for the next hour and find your higher purpose on My Wild Magic, starting now. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for being on the show today. I'm Adrienne, and you are on with My Wild Magic with Adrienne, Transformation Talk Radio. And today we have as our special guest is Tiffany Harelik, and she is she's the owner and founder of wiseguyscollective.com, and she does astrology. She also does tarot readings, kind of like soul readings. They do human design, enneagram work. But Tiffany, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we're going to be going over our astrology today, kind of an overview for the year and some special tools that Tiffany has to help.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. Like you said, I'm the founder of Wise Guys Collective. We are a metaphysical counseling company. We offer one-on-one services through a lot of different background. I have a background in health psychology. So my master's is in health psychology. So when I was working with Wise Guys, I wanted to bring in a lot of different integrative therapies and different practitioners with different lenses. And so, like you said, we have the human design, we've got tarot, Akashic records, and astrology readings. And so for me, astrology is really the anchor because it's like the weather forecast. And so I'm so excited that we're going to talk today about, what's going on in 2022. It helps everybody just get a tone, just catch a vibe for what we might experience. And I think that's been really helpful in the last couple of years to get that astrology map out in front of us. So that's me.
Yeah, I like the weather astrology. I like that a lot, actually. Yeah, I could see you being a great weather person on the TV too. You got a great personality for that. Yeah.
Wouldn't it be fun if there was a station that would let me do the astrology forecast with the weather forecast?
Yeah, it sure would. So helpful. I think it would put a lot of minds at ease there. Yeah. So just out of curiosity, what is health psychology exactly?
Yeah, I got into health psychology because it's an integrative approach to physical health, our physical bodies, and our psychology. So the way we think, blending that mind, body, spirit. It was through Texas State University, which is an accredited university. So a lot of people went on the counseling track and wanted to work in counseling. Some people went in the research track and were looking at things like the relationship between certain emotions and certain physical health issues. So I just went metaphysical.
Yeah, right. There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool path to take. Yeah. So with the astrology forecast, anything in, January that we need to know as we're kind of like moving through January right now?
Yeah, we're almost done here. We're moving through January. Like you said, what's cool about January is that the nodes shift from Mercury from Gemini and Sagittarius into Taurus and Scorpio. And so the nodes are the points of the moon that represent the North Node, our fates, our purpose, our what we're wanting to do. This is very much aligned with like how you offer soul blueprint information to people. And whereas the South Node tends to be more past life lessons, things that we've come into this world with that are a little bit easy for us. And so the North Node really stretches us, and the South Node is where we tend to relax or take it easy or be even more lazy with. So when they shift, I feel excited about it personally, because what this means is that the North Node in Taurus, it feels like everything is settling down a little bit, that things look a little bit more real world. We've got Taurus, that very earth energy, like a lot of the meditations that you do to help plug us into the new earth energy. Mm-hmm. New earth energy would be the North Node in Taurus, right?
So, wow, cool. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. So something, you can work with in terms of that in your own personal world would be financial integrity, getting things cleaned up on paper, getting things organized in your home, not in that like Virgo, got to get my fridge organized kind of a way, but more in that Taurus, things need to feel good. You know, Taurus is very much like in your body and a little bit more sensual. And so what feels good? So that's one way. That's one way that you can work with it.
Yeah, right. And I was wondering if January, like I've heard a couple of people say that, maybe just like, for January, right this second, just not doing as much, being a little bit more inward, not doing quite as much, like with plans and stuff like that. Is that also true for January?
With the plans, is that what you said?
Well, like in January, is it in alignment to maybe not do as much, like to be a little bit more mellow right now? Like if you have big plans and stuff, because we're going to talk about February in a minute, but is that also kind of
I think in general, I don't want to say I've never liked January, but it's never been a real start. Like we're still in winter. We're still in the soft closing cycles. And so I would agree with that. I would feel like astrologically it would be more aligned to wait until the end of January, early February to feel like, oh, there's a fresh new year. I've got new energy to start this new life cycle to go forward. So yeah, going slow, new pace, a new space, new surroundings. We're just reorienting ourselves here. Just because it turned into January doesn't necessarily make it feel a lot different than where we were. So waiting to feel that new spark for maybe the spring,
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And then going into February then. Bigger, brighter things.
Yes, bigger and
Look
brighter.
At you light up. You just light up when we talk about the February.
Well, February, I am so excited to see how it plays out for people at the individual level and us as in groups at the higher level and the inner levels too. There's a couple of really great astrology transits in 2022. And February is one of them. And so I feel like there's still this hope, this anticipation. What's going on is that Jupiter is going to sextile Uranus, and Jupiter brings good things. This is the grantor of wishes. Jupiter is kings and philosophers and magicians and magic carpet rides and understanding of new worlds and foreign studies and travel and overseas adventures or connecting overseas with foreign cultures. So when Jupiter brings that kind of good luck, magic, and abundance, and all of the feelings of bigness and that like, let's roll the dice, let's go big. When it's in a positive aspect to Uranus, right? Uranus is kind of like the Einstein in the sky. So that innovative, patent making, alchemical, what is I hate to make a Disney reference, but like Belle's dad in Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, right.
Like that crazy guy on the mountain that's like making stuff and stuff's bubbling out all over the place, and he's just really smart, but also earthy and interesting, and you just kind of love him. That's the energy that we have to work with. And so your life's not passing you by if you don't have some brilliant thing to be working on. But if you're kind of shy or kind of scared to share your talents or kind of trying something new out or dabbling in a new area, this really motivates and fuels some of that, at the individual level and at the group level.
I see. Yeah. So cool. So with the February energy, a little bit more getting out there, a little bit more expansive. And I love how you're describing the Jupiter. It's just so magical.
I know.
Yeah.
Jupiter, is the cosmic magnifying glass, right?
I did not know that. Yeah.
It puts things like you get to zoom out and see things from a different perspective. This can be good and it can be tricky. I liken Jupiter to my Jewish great aunt, right? She knows a guy. She's not going to let you leave until the plate is clean, so expands can be expanding bellies, right? It can be expanding minds. It can be expanding awareness. It can be expanding from the heart space, but it can also be a time where we're gaining in all areas. And some people want that and some people don't, right? So Jupiter is a really fun, I think, planet to work with. And so when it lights up the skies in February, where is it in your chart? Knowing your own astrology chart can be useful during this time too, because you would know what house Jupiter is in for you personally. What's being illuminated for you?
I see. Got it. Okay. So we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a moment to go a little bit deeper into the year astrology in just a moment. All right, welcome back. Okay, so Tiffany, we were just going into our astrology. So if somebody wanted to get an astrology reading because they're not that sure about their own astrology and how things are kind of hitting on it, what's the best way to get an astrology reading? Like, how can we get in touch with you?
wiseskiescollective.com. So wise like wisdom, skies like the stars above us, and collective. So wiseskiescollective.com. You can book with me, you can book with any of our practitioners, and we would love to look at your chart. It's like, the map of the skies when you were born, and there's interesting symbols and archetypes that you can work with that are evolving as you look at them. It's a really fun magic trick.
Yeah, it's really kind of a living system, it seems, astrology. The planets are living, the earth is living, the moon is living, the eclipses are kind of living, we're living. I like it for that reason. Like, it's not a intellectual system as much as a living energy, because how it touches all the living energies affecting us.
Yeah. Really well said. I like how you put it.
You're like, yeah, where do I go with that now?
No, it's perfect. It's so true, because there are different ways of studying astrology, right? Like there's Vedic, I study Western astrology that is evolutionary. And so what you described would be evolutionary astrology. We believe that in physics, right, what you look at changes. The experimenter, the observer affects the experiment, and the experimenter affects the whole cosmos. And so it's like, as you look at it, you have new awareness, new understanding, and then you change and you look at it again. And so that's why one birth chart can be useful for your whole life, because you're going to see it, you're going to change with it, it's going to change with you. And that whole reflection, that like polishing the mirror of your heart through looking at these different signs over time, gives it that organic, like feeling of being alive.
Yeah. And so sometimes I think people, I think they're very intrigued to learn things about themselves, and your astrology chart gives you a ton of self-awareness and information that is like a roadmap to help you with your strengths, your weaknesses, your life path, things that you'd be really good at if you're looking to figure out what to do with your life, how you operate in relationships. So there's so many cool things that the astrology chart gives you. But I also feel like sometimes people might be afraid to do astrology because it's like, it's fixed and it's this way, and I'm going to be this way, and it's going to tell me when I'm going to die, and it's going to tell me these horrible things. So what would you say about anybody who is maybe a little bit nervous or afraid that the astrology is going to tell them something they don't want to hear, and then they're going to not be able to change it?
Yeah. Well, I don't think they're ready for an astrology reading.
Sums it up. Okay.
Well, I mean, there's just nothing to be afraid of, right? Like there's nothing fixed about astrology. You still have free will. You're born writing your own story. There's no, I'm not going to look at it and calculate a birth or a death or like an exact moment. Now we can look at themes of change and seasons of life, and we can look at windows of opportunity, and we can look at curveballs that might be thrown your way, but we can't say it's going to happen exactly like this. We can use our psychic work to make some guesses, but generally speaking, there's not much to be afraid about. Like, I mean, it's almost as bizarre to me as being like, I don't want to look at the watch because I might know what time it is, It's like, why don't you want to
I've had
know?
my moments with time. Right.
And that's, it's just, I can't think of another metaphor. It's like it doesn't hurt you.
And it's not necessarily like, and the reason I was asking is because of what you said, that it's a living, evolving chart. So in other words, like I'll give you an example. So a lot of people, common theme is a lot of people understand what Mercury retrograde is. So that's one of the planets in the sky that when it starts retrograding, which happens, 4 times a year?
3 or 4, yeah.
Okay, you're like, give or take. And in that process, a lot of people are terrified, will not sell a house, will not sign a contract, will not get married, will not do anything. If there is a Mercury retrograde, it shuts down their life, and they're almost terrified about it. You know what I mean? Oh my God, this happened and it's got to be Mercury retrograde. Now for me, because I do have a Gemini rising, I'm like, yay, Mercury retrograde. I get to like communicate and I get more clear about things. So I have a very different understanding of it. I actually look forwards to them as a point of clarity, but it's just my reference point. Right. Somebody else's reference point takes it as it's, this evil thing that comes in upon us 3 to 4 times a year. So with the astrology chart, it sounds as though, even though we can't change the planets in the sky or the solstices or certain things, we can still, like, what part of our free will works with astrology? Like, is it like how we perceive it? Is it how if we resist it, it does get really hard on us, but if we accept it and learn from it, we grow. Like,
yeah. So there's different archetypes that will teach us different things. But to work with kind of that analogy of time and your own perspective and your own life experiences, like you're talking about, like some people hate Mercury retrograde, some people love it. Some people are born during Mercury retrograde and operate better during it, right?
Yeah.
But like 5 o'clock in Austin, Texas, I hate driving. I don't want to go through that. Some people are like, oh boy, I'll just put on my audiobook and tune out for an hour while I sit on the highway. So it's all about my attitude about it. I can't not be on the road at 5 o'clock. So I can get right with it, or I can hate it. It's not really going to change the fact that I'm on the road at 5 o'clock. So what the astrology does is helps you get a grip for your surroundings and your own experience, your own lens, your own perspective is going to kind of shadow or color or detail your experience of the same astrology that we're all under,
Yeah. And so really then it sounds like the astrology gives us an opportunity to be more consciously involved in our life in the way that the bigger universal flow is happening around us, so that we can kind of have more wisdom to understand maybe kind of right timing, like, wow, the right timing for me to sign that contract might be here, the right timing to, or maybe these health issues are coming up because of this, and look at it a little bit deeper. So it sounds like it brings forth greater wisdom and more free will, more choice.
More choice and that magic of divine right timing and knowing kind of what you're getting yourself into. Everything has a birth chart. So if you're starting a business, if you are signing a new lease on a new apartment, if you are buying a home, if you are getting married, if you are, you know what I mean? If there's some significant event, it has a birth chart. And so why not give it the best birth chart you can give it, right? Why not look at the timing and see when to elect the best time to do something like that, right? So I feel like I went off on a tangent. And
no, that's beautiful. And one of the things also that as you kind of go through the months, let's see, it seems like there might have been some interesting stuff in May, but July, but we had talked previously and on the Dr. Pat show actually. And on that energy, you were saying that in July that our country also has a birth chart. And it sort of implies certain things, what I mean? So countries and what we go through, and that's kind of a big interest right now with people because there's so much maybe instability with our country and also maybe the world as a whole.
Yes. Okay. So 2 things that you kind of led me into with that. So in April, one of the other big positive transits of the year is going to be that Jupiter, that one that we love to work with, is going to be right next to Neptune in Pisces in the skies. And over time, what we have observed through astrology is this is a time when the cultural arts are changing. So you can look back over like the 70s music and the 80s music and the 90s, and you can feel it. The art of the 90s is different than the art of the 60s. Like the font is different, the shades are different. And this is a moment in April when the style and the vibe changes. It's a moment when somebody's writing the next great screenplay, that the next book that changes everything, the next, I don't know, Grapes of Wrath, like the next classic thing. I didn't read that, so that might have not been a good example. I don't have any idea, but it's something that everybody knows. You know what I mean? The next Twilight, right? The next 1984. I don't know, but it's the next thing that changes, that everybody gets into, like the Shades of Grey one that so many people read, that it, you know, doesn't have to be perfect, so just go for it, right? When did pointillism change into this more watercolor scene, right? Like when did those things change? Well, Jupiter and Neptune just really magnifies a new 13-year cycle specifically for artists and creatives. So I want to point that out there, because I don't want to, I guess, have been astro shamed for being overly optimistic, but I think that that's a good one to know about as our country is changing. The thing that you're talking about is our Pluto return. And so I know that you have listeners and watchers all over the world, and that the United States is a relatively young country where I practice in. We have birthdays. The sun comes around to the same place in the chart as it was when we were born. It's called our solar return. Children, when they turn 2, get their Mars return. So every 2 years, you have a case of the terrible twos, because Mars is coming back into your life. The Saturn return, the cycles of Saturn are 27 years. And so knowing some of that can be helpful. But the country has the opportunity to experience a Pluto return, which happens every 248, 250 years. And so many countries have already gone through that. And what we have seen is civil war, upheaval, tearing down of the government, changing the structure of the politics. The people have different opinions. The United States we were born with our Mars in Gemini. And so this idea of like one nation, it's like, but we were kind of born to be a divided mind about some things. We have 2, I guess, main political parties. As over time, we have seen that. I'm not a political astrologist. I didn't study any of that way. I haven't looked at the nature of other countries' 250-year cycles. But what I can tell you is for the United States, we're going to see that start to play out the end of February 20th, in a more major way in July, and also all the way through December. So we have some kind of gong crash moments where things are pivoting in a big way.
Okay, so hold that gong crash. We're going to take an electrical break right now, and we'll be back in just a moment. Stay tuned for the gong crash, and Tiffany will explain more about that. All right, welcome back. We are on with Tiffany Harelik, who does wiseskiescollective.com. Please go to her website and visit her. We've actually got a special for you that we're going to offer as well. So to reach Tiffany for an astrology reading or human design reading, enneagram reading, tarot readings, what else do you got going on there?
We have April does Akashic Records, and there's just a whole menu of metaphysical counseling offerings. Yeah.
And you got a membership. And so the collective is sort of like, you could also for $22 a month be part of her membership that offers a lot of cool free things and classes you can take. So what's the benefits of the membership?
Okay, so the membership changes each month. So this is somebody that's like on the seeker's path, that is interested on all of the metaphysical avenues. In January, we had a focus on the Enneagram. We looked at the 9-star key New Year shifts. We looked at the sun moving into gate 41 through the lens of human design. In February, I'm really excited because we're looking at Ancestry Tarot. And I don't know if you've ever played with that.
No.
But, as like a reader and an intuitive and a seeker, it's hard to really wow me. But I had an ancestry reading that just made me cry. And I went on this whole ancestral trip, and it was very synchronistic. So that's the focus of our February membership, where we have Addie coming to teach a class about Ancestry Tarot. We're getting a message from the Akashic Records for our group about relationships. So, one of the biggest reasons.
Okay, well, you got me in. I'm signing up for the February for sure. I was on your website the other day. I got the calendar. I was fixing to do the membership. I got distracted by something, so I got to get back to that because those are all super cool subjects. I think I would love to see. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna get back to that gong crashing.
Okay. So,
July. Yeah.
So we've got it. The United States Pluto return is a study that happens over several years. I can tell you that we're going to have 3 direct hits in 2022. One is February 20th. That I don't think we're going to see or feel that as potently as we will in July. I think May is going to be very hot, mess, bother, burnout kind of a month. I wouldn't plan a lot for May. But it's because like there's so much compressing, especially for the United States in July. What's happening is that Saturn is going to be retrograde and it's going to hover right over the moon of the United States. I think that people are going to be really sensitive and really burned out. And I feel like it's like Saturn, when it presses in on a chart in this way, people tend to feel really controlled. And there's a lot of people that don't want to feel really controlled, right? So what is that going to look like? I can't exactly, I don't know. But what I do know is that I feel like Saturn rules or governs over borders and boundaries and things that keep people in different groups or sections or neighborhoods. And I feel like that's going to change a whole lot. I don't feel like people are going to group with the same people that they are used to grouping with. And that's, I don't know, one of the bigger gone crashes. And so I think that we'll feel that throughout the summer here in the States, different disruptions, right? Different things that kind of force changes. You can see it, like we have family property here in Texas, and there's a lot of the wind turbines popping up. And so the boundaries, the borders, the skylines, what I look at out the window has changed, and it looks very futuristic and different. It means like the neighbors are all pissed, you know what I mean? Everybody's up in arms about it. It means that there's no, homes won't be built there. And so that's just my personal example, right? And so how is that going to continue to unfold? How are our horizon lines changing, both physically and metaphorically? I feel like Mars is going to conjunct Uranus at the end of the month in July too, and that feels very explosive, fiery, hot, forest fires, like don't flick your cigarettes out the window type of a month. Like it's just really heated. And don't you kind of want to know that, especially from somebody who's happy, you know what I mean? Like,
well, I have been concerned personally living in Portland, Oregon. So I'm kind of on the West Coast, and and we do have some out here called the Cascadian Fault Line. It's about 50 miles off the coast, 50, 100 miles. And, once you live here, you got to know that, sort of like living in California, that fault line at 300 years, it usually goes every 300 years, and we're actually overdue for it. And then we've had all these major forest fires out here. We've had a lot of stuff. And I just don't think I can go through another natural disaster. So, I am looking at the potential of, moving. As much as I absolutely love and adore Portland, it's, I've loved it a lot. I might need to take a little break, till I see what happens. But intuitively, because I have moved a lot, sometimes there's this intuition of when you're in touch with the nature kingdom and the elementals that, maybe it is time to do something different, and so the astrology, you're one of the probably 2 or 3 people that I've heard that is making me consider it a whole lot more seriously versus just being emotional and moving, which I'm happy to do. But sometimes it's just a wise thing too, depending on where you're living and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, yeah.
I think it is wise to consider, and that would be changing your borders and boundaries. It would be working with the energy of disruption, right? And so disruption doesn't always have to be bad. And in fact, we can feel or affect the astrology, especially the tough astrology, when we activate or work with it. And so if I'm causing a disruption, so to speak, if I'm moving, right, if I'm breaking up the ground to build a garden, that cause of disruption can also somehow desensitize me from being astrologied on. Does that make sense? I'm not using my words well, but that's what my teacher taught me.
Blame it on them. Yeah.
Yeah. And I work with that. Like I do that. If I see something rough coming, I try to work with that energy within myself so that I'm not necessarily astrologied on.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying, that, my intuitive sense and then watching the astrology and some of the things I've seen out there, I'm like, yeah. So I got a really cool Berkey water filter system ordered in, because water is a big deal if you can't have water. And I've got like a great like hydroponic garden. You know what I mean? There's just some things. I know that you do beekeeping, you have some acreage, you have like your own little farm and things that you do. So it's good to have all that for sure, for people.
And with the water thing, I've been advising my clients to just get one of those steri pins too, because not everybody can get a Berkey, right? It's not the right season for everybody, but a steri pin is not that much. It's a sterilization pin that you can get on anywhere cheaply.
Yeah, I've seen those. Yeah, and Bear Grylls has a whole bunch. REI has a whole bunch of little filtered water bottles and stuff. You can just grab it up anywhere out of the lake, water, pools, etc. Just little things like that. But yeah. So with that type of astrology, I'm wondering also, do you do astrocartography, which is how your astrology is affected when you live certain places? Like, explain that a little bit. And do you do that if somebody was interested in
looking at that?
Yeah.
So I would, yeah, we could totally do, look at what we would do is put your birth data into this software that gives us a map, and we can look at the whole world, or we can narrow it down to your country, we can narrow it down to your state. But what it does is it overlays the planetary lines at the time of your birth over the world. And so then you can start to consciously choose what planetary lines you want to live around. And that sounds crazy until you've lived somewhere on a Mars line and every relationship you've ever had hasn't worked, and every boss has been a jerk, and everything, and your whole life has been a fight. And then you move off of that Mars line and it's like, so
yeah, my Mars line actually goes through South Texas, which I did live there quite a bit. I did purposely choose to live in Portland because it's on my Venus line. And, I was working on my heart and relationship issues and things like that. So I chose out here for that. Yeah, it's a really good line, but it also seems to come with a lot of physical, natural, possible disasters, even though it's more beautiful than any place in the world. Yeah. So, okay, that's cool. So that's another reason to kind of reach out to Tiffany is around that. So with the astrology, just kind of before we go to a break, just kind of like bringing us full circle with it sounds like
with the Pluto return, I think some other things that we'll see are shortages, like the supply chain issues. I think are going to be more obvious in some areas. We talked about the steri pins. I know that people have different levels of comfort with prepping, but things that I like to keep on stock are very simple things that will sustain me. Like I probably have a little too much peanut butter in my shelves right now. I have a little too many protein powders and almond milks that don't have to be refrigerated, right? Stuff that I can easily use for nutrients if I need them in a pinch. The tires on my bike are aired up. Like it's not, like I said, I'm not a doom and gloom astrologer, and I get astro shamed for not being more scary out there. But it does look like an intense time. And as one of my clients put it, sometimes you got to fly over the Bermuda Triangle at midnight on Friday the 13th, and you just got to go forward anyways, even if we can see it coming, sometimes it's just like going through it. And so how can we feel prepared? Everybody's going to feel prepared differently. For me, it's peanut butter and smoothies and Stary pens. You know what I mean? For you, it might be something else. For you, it might be time to make a move. You know, we could look at your personal astrology and how this affects you personally.
Well, I'm hitting you up for that phone call very soon here. Yeah, before we get into the hot summer months there. So yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome with that. Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break, be back, and Tiffany has an amazing technology for astrology that you can actually look at on your own phone. So we're going to come back in just a moment and take a look at that. Welcome back. We are on with Tiffany Harelik, who is the founder of wiseskiescollective.com. Please go and check out her stuff. She's got a whole community of really cool people to work with there. And so she's been giving us kind of the astro, forecast for some of the hot months that we got going on here with some things. But she does have a calendar that if you're interested in learning a little bit more about astrology, or maybe you know a little bit and want to play more with it, it's a really unique technology that you can download right on your phone. So Tiffany, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so the calendar is in its 6th year now, and it's one of my favorite activities and products to create, because what I've done is I've looked at all of the significant transits and also where the moon is. People are really interested in knowing what sign the moon is in, if the moon is void, of course. There are things in the astrology calendar that help you decide, is this the best time to take a meeting? Is this the best time to sign up for team sports? Is this the best time to get my hair done? And like, there's all kinds of decisions that we're faced with that are both mundane and bigger picture, for like larger life purpose type questions. And so when I made this calendar, what I did was, it's just like a calendar you can import in any system that you use, whether you're an Android person, an iPhone person, a Google Calendar, and whatever your system is, it'll import, because they're in universal files. But it'll import, and you'll see these little calendar events. And so if you click on the event, I've given a description. So if you know nothing about astrology, or if you know enough astrology to get yourself into trouble, I've given you some snapshots of what I think that transit is like, based on my lineage and the people that I learned astrology from, right, 20 years ago. So you can interpret it differently, but the idea is that if you know nothing, you can still use it, because I have explained what it means when the moon is in Taurus, or when the moon is void of course, or when these planets are interacting in this way. It's really just, like I said, it goes right into your device. And so this is my personal calendar, but you can see the items that you would click on one of them and you would get the calendar description. So the one that I clicked on happens to be Mars trine Uranus on February 8th. And so the description is: a boost of energy, drive, determination are available, pivoting in a new direction, sparks of creativity fly. So if you're on a creative team, isn't this an awesome time to have a group meeting to do a storyboard, or to group think, or to brainstorm, or to start ideation of some kind, if you're wanting to create, so there are moments like that throughout, where if you look ahead, or you're trying to learn astrology, or you just want to know what the forecast feels like, it's just a fun tool to be able to play with.
So really, if you're just personally interested, in other words, if I just want to make daily decisions on my life in universal flow with the planetary systems, because the planets essentially, and just, jump in here anytime, but the planets essentially send energy vibrations out, all of them do. And so when they send those energy vibrations out, that has an effect. Sort of like the easiest one probably to describe is the moon. People are pretty aware that the moon has a pull on us and our emotional body and the water aspect of our body. Mm-hmm. So the moon's a common one, the sun with solar flares.
Right. And like you're saying, each of them have a different signature tone. Mercury governs over kind of the way that we think, the way we understand, the way we communicate. It's kind of like the brain in the skies. And so it influences how we're seeing things, how we're understanding things, our learning languages, our learning styles. There's, of course, Saturn, who's more about rules and disciplines, and where we need to have some more structure in our lives. And without having, and then there's all the combinations of them all interacting with each other. And that can be a really fun thing to learn if you want to geek out on astrology. But if you don't want to learn it all, it's at least listed for you. When you're talking about the moons, this is in the calendar, it has each phase of the moon too. So it'll tell you, yeah, okay, the moon's in Taurus today. And what does that mean? Okay, maybe you want some creature comforts. Maybe you want something to be a little bit more predictable. Maybe you want to work with crystals, or find something to do with earth energy. Get in your garden, right? Get outside, ground yourself, do some earthing, stuff like that. But it also tells you when it changes phases. And so a lot of people like to work with a calendar with new moons and full moons. First quarter and third quarter moons, the new moon being a time when we like to make wishes or set intentions or start new chapters, or feel a refresh. It's a nice anchor in a month. If you're having like a rough month, the new moon is a nice thing to look forward to. Like, okay, at least there's going to be some fresh energy then. I will feel differently about this, right? The full moon, of course, representing full circles, things coming full circle, things coming to a sense of completion. So, wherever you need to recognize something ending, something that you can kind of let go of, it's these smaller cycles. So as an astrologer, you kind of get sick of yourself saying, oh, new beginnings, oh, endings. But there are at least 2 times a month where, if you're needing an anchor because you're having an emotionally volatile month, or you're having, or you're facing a lot of ups and downs, at least those 2 points will help you center yourself and feel like you're part of this, anchored into something, as opposed to just, when is this going to end? One of the biggest questions that the calendar, I think, answers is, I wrote an article called "This Too Shall Pass, But When?" And that's what the astrology helps you with. It just knows if you're going through a hard time, when will it end? If you're going through your great time, what are the opportunity?
I do get that question a lot working with people. It's like, oh, I'm in this relationship thing, or I'm in this financial thing, or this health thing. And when will it end? Yeah. So now I can say, I don't know, but Tiffany knows. Why don't you download her calendar? And then we'll have an accurate answer. Yeah. So anybody wanting to download it then. So again, it's good for people who maybe just want their own personal advice and can just pop it open, super easy to use and read. Second of all, if people maybe are more interested in astrology, they're wanting to learn a little bit more about it. It sounds like it's a super easy tool, very active way of learning as you go, along those routes as well. And some of the bigger planning too. So they can go to your website, Wise Skies. So it's WISESKIES Collective, COLLECTIVE.com, wiseskiescollective.com. And if they go onto your website, there'll be, what little link do they find to get to the calendar? Or is it on the front page?
Right at the top in the nav bar, it says astrology calendar. And what's cool about that page is that it helps orient you to it, and it gives you a free sample of the month. So you don't even have to buy it if you don't want to. You can just look at what's going on and what would pop up on your phone or calendar. And the reason I do that is, it's like, it's there so that you can understand how it would work, and if you might want it to incorporate it into your device instead of having to go to my website. But there is a free sample there, and you can click the button, I want the calendar. It's also in the shop tab, and it's just a simple download. You click it, you buy it, it's in your receipt, and it comes, you have to click the receipt, but it comes into whatever format you're already using. So,
and it's easy as it sounds like to do it on your computer or laptop, and then it will transfer into your phone calendar. And I think if people go on to that, Magic 50 still works.
Yeah, Magic 50.
So anybody who's watching the show today, you want it for yourself, you want to share it with friends, family, loved ones, go to our website, wiseskiescollective.com. Get the calendar. It's a super cool tool. I've never seen anything else like that out there, that's just that cool. then you'll get 50% off. So it's normally $35. If you put in the apply code for Magic 50, then you get 50% off. So it's like what, $17.50 or something like that.
$17.50 for the whole year.
God, for the whole year to be in universal flow. How better does it get than that, right?
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah. So any last minute thing before we wrap up here, because we're coming to an end?
Yeah, this is the end of an era. And one of my favorite Anne Lamott quotes is that hope begins in the darkness. And so if you're going through a tough season, if you're going through a season of darkness, just know that that's where hope is seated. And we can keep a vision of love. We can keep our spiritual vision through tough times. We can work together. And I think that working in smaller groups is going to be really helpful for us as we're going into 2022. It's a year when you can figure out a new home base, when you're orienting to a new home, a new spiritual home, a new space and a new pace. And so just keep looking for the new moons, guys. And thank you so much for having me on. I'm always so energized when I get to talk to you. So
absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you for all your astrological weather casting. And if anybody wants to check out anything else I offer, New Year's readings, mentorship, etc., go to mywildmagic.com. Again, that's mywildmagic.com. And thank you. Thanks for tuning in to My Wild Magic with me, your host, Adrienne Cobb. Each one of us has a soul purpose on this earth and a higher purpose full of creative expression and unique soul attributes. Make sure to tune in next week on transformationtalkradio.com to continue your journey home to your truest self and pursue the path of unconditional self-love. If you would like to learn more about me, visit mywildmagic.com. Again, that's mywildmagic.com.